Hello and welcome back to That Writer Guy podcast. I am your host, Lyman Rate, and here we are at the midway point on the series, or I should say the shared midway point, as this is the fourth part of an 8-part series on world building, and this part is all about the people that live, work, sleep, eat, and do everything they do in your world. Up to this point, you have figured out the type of world, geography of your world, the lands, the animals, the creatures, and beasts of your world. Now we focus on the people of your world. This can be a very complex thing depending on many factors, as well as there are many other things to consider. I am going to break down things here in this series and make them as easy as possible to be understood. Now, what I mean when I say the people of your world is the types of people. If you have multiple lands, multiple places, across the seas, or are wanting to create a world that is truly unique as the one we live in today, then you need to think about the types of people in regards to ethnicity, language, skin tone, and even go back to the geography of the land that they come from. This can be said for any type of person in your story. The first part is ethnicity. In your world, you will probably have multiple types of people, characters, and unless the objective is they all speak the same, then you'll have no need for any of this. However, if your world is truly unique and diverse, your world will have different people from different ethnicities. This is especially true if you have a world that includes seas and intercontinental or even land-to-land trading and commerce. Having people from different ethnicities and places allows the readers to have a variance in what they are reading. Instead of everything being the same or nearly the same, different people from different ethnicities or places will make the story more palatable and readable. The next part is language. Languages are so diverse and can be done in so many ways. What am I talking about? When it comes to language, you can set your language to be any dialect, or depending on the year you are setting your world in, can be a factor. Let's say you've determined you want your world to be in medieval times. If that's the case, it would make sense that they speak in some form of language of that time period. It would be very hard to believe that they would speak in modern language. I do not think they would use contractions just as can't, wouldn't, couldn't, or shouldn't. However, ultimately, you get to be the judge as to what you do with words and languages. Heck, if you want to, go for it and create your own language and have at it, just have fun, okay? Just know that creating your own personal language from scratch is not easy, and it can take months to even years to master a language you're creating yourself. From how it's written, to how the words are spelled, the phonetics of each letter, and in word form, these are just a few of the things you'll be working on. It's not something that can just be written in a few days and you'll be ready for the next step. But if you do find yourself in that lucky position, I would love to have you help me with my language, which I've been working on now for a couple of years. The next section is skin tone. This won't be super long because you can determine what the skin tone is of your people will be like. If someone is to have blue skin like an avatar, go for it. Have fun. If you want them to be a large array of colors, that's your choice. You just have to make sure that you're able to convey this and convince your readers that this is normal in your world. Now, the next part is each land. Each land should have some people in it, unless they're designed to be barren of people and creatures. And so there is no set rule that every land should have someone or some people in it. However, the worst places usually do have at least a few people that live there, and or at least a few beasts or animals. And they usually end up being somewhere of the oddest or weirdest people on the entire story. I'm going to use a bit heavily some of my own work in this because of it fits so well. In my first fantasy series, I have 7 lands. Of those 7 lands, only 1 does not have people that inhabit the land. But people pass through that land a lot. That land is the Omerol Forest, and it's rich in trees, lots of lush landscape, and underbrush. There are my 3 main roads that are traveled by people of all different lands, and it acts like a border between the 3 lands. The reason I opted not to have people in this particular land is because I wanted to keep it simple. Now, for the other 6 lands of my world, there are people, Most speak without different race or ethnicity, but that's because this particular part of the world is one giant piece of land. However, when they travel across the sea to another land and place entirely, they encounter a different dialect and people. It isn't always about giving the reader something easy and simple to read. Yes, we want them to be able to read our stories and our books without having without many problems, if any at all, but we must remain true to the story we are wanting to tell. Now for the unique and unusual. This one can be fun because you can take different people that are your characters and those that they run into and make them stand out. Maybe a man that they run into that doesn't speak very well. Maybe a woman that sounds she's been running a long race and is always wheezing and gasping for air. By adding people in that are unique or unusual, it can make areas that are typically boring go through fun for the characters, and even the readers make it more interesting. Not only that, but I have found that with a well-placed, unique, or unusual person, they can actually become a bigger part of the story without intending to. I have honestly read a few books where the story, plot, and characters were great, but I remembered some of the side characters and their quirks better than the story and everything else entirely. And after the lands and language and ethnicity and skin tone, what else is there? To be fair, not very much else when it comes to people in your world. You can be creative or you can stand out as you want. I have touched base on a number of things, and if you spend a lot of time on your world, make sure that you devote enough time on your people. They are just as important as the geography, the money, the lands, and they deserve your attention. And that is everything I have for this part of the world building, and I ask that you please join me in the next episode where I start talking about more along the lines of the agriculture, commercial, and industrial spots. Where do they have a role? That'll be part 5 of the World Building series. I have been your host for That Writer Guy podcast, and I hope to see you again next time. But until then, keep the words flowing, the ideas going, and happy writing.